Highest scoring game of the season in the NBA so far. 22 ties, 22 lead changes.
Entertaining.
Very entertaining basketball.
So entertaining.
Yeah.
Edge of your seat entertaining. Lots of lead changes, lots of ties. It was back and forth. And, you know, the two times you thought somebody was going to win, it was both the Suns. The end of regulation, end of overtime. You thought the Suns had the thing won, and then they didn't, and they ended up losing.
Yeah, it would have been, it's going to sound weird to say this, it would have been more fun if there were less on the line. You know, like if there weren't so much riding on every single dang game this team is playing right now, right? Like, you know, like if you just, hey, they're going to be the third seed and you're going to be the fifth seed. Fun. Roll the ball out there. Let's have a good old time and just play in overtime and see, you know, first one to 160 wins or whatever.
Well, you mentioned it yesterday. Like, if they lose this game, they're going to be 3 games back. That's a lot.
It's a lot.
That's a lot this late in the season. That becomes a lot. It's not, you could do it. You could manage it. The problem is Golden State is freaking hot right now.
Yes, they are.
Golden State is hot. They got this guy, Jimmy. They made a trade for this guy named
Jimmy Butler.
Jimmy something. Jimmy Butler.
Jimmy Butler.
And
The
all
third.
Of a sudden,
Jimmy Butler the third. Yes, with a
I can't remember where they got him from. They made this trade. They got this guy Butler, and they're winning, and their culture's back, and everything. Everybody's got that swag back, and so like you know, Sacramento had a nice win the other day with Zach LaVine having a great game. Dallas is really struggling because their guys are out. You know, you start to wonder who are they going to catch. Who are they going to catch?
Yeah,
they're 3 games behind the 10 spot, and after these 2 New Orleans games, the schedule becomes hell. It just becomes hell.
It does. It's Minnesota, and it's the Clippers, and it's Denver, and it's Dallas, and it's Memphis again, and it's Houston again. They got a nice
Milwaukee
win
and Boston.
last night against Milwaukee, and then it really
And New
gets
York.
bad in the month of March. It gets really, really bad. Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair to whether you want to make any declarations right now or not. I mean, Gambo, they're closer to 12 than they are to 10 in the standings. Not by much.
Portland passed San Antonio.
But they're closer to 12 than they are to 10. They're 3 games back in the loss column to the Kings at 10. They're 2 games ahead of Portland in the loss column for the 12th seed. Now, you know, again, that alone doesn't doom them. The number of games back doesn't doom them. It's like all in combination. It's the Sacramento Kings look like they're playing well, and the Warriors are playing well, and it's a question of who you're going to catch.
Warriors.
Yeah.
You're not catching.
So it's a question of who you're going to catch. It's a question of your schedule and how hard it is. And it's just a question of mentality. Where are their heads now after losing that game last night? Where's their...
Did we think that after the Toronto game? Where's their heads now after Toronto hit 6 3-pointers to win the game at the end?
Yeah.
And they showed up and they played their asses off against Memphis on the road. They're a better team, a much better team than Toronto.
I think, maybe I'm wrong. I think a Toronto game is an easier one to recover from because you look at it and go, God, man, how did we, we played like crap the whole day. We had no business being in that game. We had no business winning that game. We got our butts kicked. Last night, they played well. There were things they did that were really, really good last night.
So your point is they played well against a good team and still couldn't win?
Yes.
That's
my point.
Instead of crappy against a bad team?
Almost harder to recover from the game that you played well but still lost because in your mind you're thinking, what else do we have to do?
That's interesting because I could take the angle that it's harder for Toronto. Toronto's no good. You have to beat them. Memphis is good. You know, like you take some... solace. You can take some salsa in the fact that you played well against.
Some salsa? Some salsa?
You can take some solace in the fact that you played well against.
Take a little salsa in the fact that you play. So which one would you choose? Because I think the one last night is harder to recover from than the one against Toronto.
The only reason that my agreement with you would be that it's another game off the schedule.
Okay.
It's another game closer to the end of the season. You got to win these games. We talked about a 6-game stretch, me and you, in which we looked at the schedule and we said, go 5-1, just don't lose to Memphis, but win the rest of the games.
They're 1-3.
They're 1-3.
They're 1-3.
The best that they can do in that stretch is 3-3. We thought 4-2 wasn't good enough. We did, because that was Chicago, Toronto, Memphis, New Orleans, and who am I missing? San Antonio.
Without Wemby.
So San Antonio, Chicago, Toronto, Memphis, New Orleans. We looked at those 6 games and we said 5-1.
Yeah.
You got to go 5-1.
4-2 minimum.
4-2
but then once we found out Wemby was out, it's like, okay, 5-1.
5-1. No
against that stretch
Wembanyama. 5-1. Got to beat Chicago. Got to beat Toronto. Got to beat New Orleans. Lose to Memphis. That's okay. The best that they can do is 3-3.
Yeah.
And they have to go in back-to-back games against a Pelicans team that's no good, but they play hard.
Yeah, they do. Look, we've thrown a lot of numbers at you today and in this segment, and so I understand if not all of them are going to stick. I get that. I'd say maybe more than anything, the number that stands out to me after last night's loss. They are 4 games below 500 for the first time since the completion of the bubble season. That blew me away when I read that today. When I read that, I think it was Dwayne Rankin who tweeted out the last time the Phoenix Suns as an organization was the day they ended the bubble in Orlando, and they haven't been 4 games under since then. That to me speaks of a level of like sheer desperation for just how close this thing is to being done. I mean, we're literally like a week away from any hope being abandoned, right? Like this gets to.
I think less. I think if you lose one of the New Orleans games.
So you think it's one of these 2 games?
I think if you lose one of these games, I don't think I don't think you can recover. You get to 4 games back with,
22 to play.
22 to play.
Right? Is there
with their schedule?
Just looking to see how many games there are.
Yeah,
left.
I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I think if you lose one of the New Orleans games, I think it's over.
They've played.
It's going to be so close anyway. Even if you beat the New Orleans twice,
they've played 58 games, so they have 24 to go.
Look, even if you beat New Orleans twice, you're still 2 games under 500.
Yeah, I know. And then it's schedule hell time. Then it's Minnesota, and then it's the Clippers, and then it's
playing
Denver.
well.
No, but does that really matter anymore?
No.
I mean, does that really? The Clippers aren't playing. So so what? They lost to Toronto. They barely beat Chicago. I get what you're saying in the context of, the schedule gets really tough. Maybe we shouldn't put the Clippers in that conversation. Tell you what, they're a hell of a lot better than Toronto is. They're a hell of a lot better than the Chicago Bulls are.
Your memory's better than mine. Didn't they have an incredibly tough stretch last year, final 10 games, and they played like 8-2?
Yeah, they did.
Right?
It was the reason why we thought they were going to do well against Minnesota.
Right.
It was a big reason. I think they went 7-3, 8-2.
You can't lose to New Orleans, either one of these games. You can't lose.
Yeah. Tough times right now for the Phoenix Suns. And what's tougher still, again, just emotionally, how different we would all feel about that basketball team if they had just won last night's game. Like how different would we feel right now about their chances, our optimism, what they were capable of, how many minds would have been changed just if they had won last night's game? I think a few. I think more than a few minds would have been changed.
Everybody's looking for a sign of hope.
Yes.
We're not getting it, but we're all looking for a sign of hope.
Thanks for watching Burns and Gambo. Click to see more from the guys and hit the button in the middle to subscribe so you never miss a video from Arizona sports.